And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Witcher, the Witcher adventure game. Now when this was first announced, I was interested not because of The Witcher, but because the designer Ignacy Trzewiczek has made some games I really like Robinson Crusoe, and it's a fantasy flight game. I didn't know anything about The Witcher, it sounded like a witch, but apparently it is actually a very popular RPG game. I believe the third one's coming out. Now, I have not played it, although I've seen the advertisements for it, and they certainly look spectacular, and people who have played it have said great things about it, but alas, I have a Mac, so probably won't get it played anytime soon. But I don't think that should affect whether I like the board game or not, but let's see. Each player is going to choose one of the four main characters. You have Dandelion and the main different characters, Triss, Marigold. So you're going to pick these different characters, one of these different characters, and you'll notice each character has somewhat different things. They each have a different starting location. They have a number of starting gold. They have some conversion things, and this is kind of important because as the game progresses, you are trying to complete quests. And many times when you're trying to complete quests, you're trying to get different tokens or proofs. Think of yourself as a detective here. So like this might be a proof here. For him to get this proof, for Dandelion to get this proof, he needs to turn in 7 of these clues. In this game they're called leads. So he can change in 7 for that. However, he can change in 5 of the blues for one of these leads, and he can change in 3 of the purples for one of the purple leads. So as each lead that he has, you can see it's easier for him to get purple leads than it is for him to get blue and red leads. And that's good because he starts with drawing a card from the purple quest deck. So the characters have some similarities. They also have different actions. Everyone has travel, investigate, develop, but he also has, and they have rest. He has a special one, sing, where when he takes that action, he will get 2. And so as the game goes by, you're going to be placing action tokens each turn to show which actions you're going to use, but you can also get wounded as the game goes by, and when you get wounded, it's possible that one of your actions won't be able to be used until you rest and heal up that action. Quests are the main heart of the game. You're going to start the game with one, and each player is going to end another one when you complete that. And once someone completes 3 quests, the game is over. Each quest has a main quest that you need to do. You need to go to a specific location on the board and then get these proofs. And then that's worth 16 points. There's also side quests that you can do. You don't have to do these to finish the card, but if you do, you'll get some points at the bottom of the card. There's also support quests. That's essentially if someone else comes and does that in your location. For example, here they'll give 3 red leads. Then they'll get 6 points and you'll get 3. And then there's consequences, which is something that will happen when you finally get everything you need. You'll do whatever it says here on the card. You might have to fight an enemy. You might have to do something, and then whatever happens, at least the quest is completed, and you get the points, but you may get hurt or something from the combat, and you go on. Players will be moving around on this board. The game comes with a plastic figure for each character, and they have a starting location, and so on your turn, you're going to be moving, possibly, and so when you go from one location to another, you'll notice that many of the locations have different leads. So if I go to Wazima, and again, folks, I've never played the game, so I don't know how to pronounce all these names, so I'm just guessing here. But when you go here, you can get a purple lead or a blue lead. When I go here, I can heal a hit point. When I go down here, I get a red lead. So you'll move around the board often to get different leads. You can also draw a card from your deck. Each character comes with their own deck, and these decks will have different cards that you can play in front of them. For example here, the one character has a bunch of spells. So this one says when this comes into play, place a marker on it, and whenever she does a travel action, she can spend a marker from this to move 1 or 2 additional routes. And if you do, advance the war track. Now in this game you can move more than one route when you're moving, but you'll then have to draw a card up here. These are the foul fate cards, and so they're usually not very good. Here, we'll take an example at one. Here's a stalked by fear. Although there are some of them that say like nothing happens. Here you place another foul fate token in your region. Here's one, war at your doorstep. It advances the war track. Here You place one marker on the side quest to mark it as completed, but you don't get the victory points for it. Well, that's not very fun, so that's not so great. You'll also notice as the game goes by that over here, there's different spots that correspond to the different colored regions on the board. So like, for example, here's the red region, here's a spot. If at the end of your turn you're in that region, you'll turn over this monster token that's there, and you'll fight that monster token. If there's a foul quest token there, you're going to have to turn over a foul quest card, a foul fate card, and deal with that card. Whenever something's empty, you move this war track, which has a possibility of adding monsters. And the monsters range from maybe this simple ghoul here, who's a pretty easy monster, but there's also silver monsters. So like here's a band of thieves. And other things might cause gold monsters to show up. So there's different kinds of monsters in the game, and you will have to fight them at different points. You also can draw a card when you're at a location, and you can pick which color card, and you usually try to pick a card that will, hopefully, like there's a red card, hopefully it will give me a red lead, but you're never sure. Like here, you basically have to spend one red clue, or you become delayed. But here, turning the tables, you receive a red clue, and then you roll your hero dice, and if you obtain a success, you get another red clue and remove a foul fate token, a hit point token from your hero sheet. So that's pretty cool. And so there's many different things that you can do, and again, each person has a special thing that they can do. So let's take a look at combat. In this game, players are going to be rolling the dice a lot, sometimes for combat, sometimes to get a success. Each character has something here that shows you what you need to get a success, and you need to roll the dice, and you need to roll that symbol. But many times you're going to be in combat, so when you're in combat, you'll look at the monster that you fight here. You'll notice he says, before rolling, advance the war track. So you move one on the roll track. Then you fight him here in his combat and swords. So you roll your dice, and if you have equal to the swords, then you're successful. And if you have equal to and the shields, you're successful. And you can use all different cards that you have, and there are good fate cards that you can get that might help you, and your own personal cards might be able to help you. And hopefully you succeed on both of them. And sometimes, like for example here, if I'm successful with the sword, I get a victory point. Yay. If I fail with the shields, though, I suffer a wound. So you're never quite sure. Each of the monsters will have different things. This is a somewhat easier person, but you'll notice here, a harder guy, he needs 4 swords and 4 shields. And before rolling, I have to take one of those tokens off one of my cards. But if I'm successful in the attack, I get 2 victory points. If I fail in the defense, I suffer 2 critical wounds. Critical wounds are harder to get rid of than regular wounds. And so this is kind of how combat works, and the whole game is kind of set up to combat. You know, you want to get cards into play, like here, for example, this Anathema Witcher gear. Once per battle, you can suffer a hit point to produce 2 swords. Or at the start of the battle, you can spend a token from this card to produce a sword, a shield, or that other symbol. So there's different cards that you'll be able to use to help yourself out in combat. And honestly, that's it. You'll see that there's a ton of different cards and things. There's text everywhere in monsters. But essentially, you are just moving around, fighting monsters, healing, moving around, fighting monsters, looking for clues until you get the clues you need to complete your quest. And when you complete your quest, you go to the next quest, and you continue doing so until the game ends with someone doing their 3rd quest. And at that point, whoever has the most points, which is tracked here on the outside of the board, is the winner. Okay. Again, I know that some people may judge my review of this based on that I have played the adventure game or not. I have not. So when I go into this, I expect there to be some kind of deep, involving story. And instead, there's a bit of a story, but I have a hard time differentiating between the 4 different characters. We have this Geralt character who apparently makes a lot of potions, and we have this Yarpen guy who has 4 cards in front of you who are dwarfs, and you can call on them. Or Triss, who has spells and things. But the problem I have with each of these characters is their special abilities and different things essentially are the same thing. Geralt, for example, has cards, potions, that he can put tokens on. He can then use those potions in battles. Triss has spells, and you can put tokens on those spells, and then you can use those spells in battle. The dwarf has dwarves in front of him, and those let him put cards out that put tokens on them to use those cards in battle. And then the minstrel gets money, and he spends that money to use friend cards so that he can use those in battle. And it just feels like they're all the same, really. Except one gets to roll more dice. He seems better than the rest, but I haven't done math to see if he is better than the rest. But the exchange rate at which you can trade things over, that's different for the different characters too. And I guess I'm also a little weirded out, I guess, by these magnifying glasses. That's the Arkham Horror symbol for clues. And in Arkham Horror, the magnifying glass made sense. It was thematic. The guy's going around looking for clues. Here, in this fantasy realm, you have magnifying glass. Your detectives going around and picking up and delivering things. The game itself is very simplistic. I mean, it's really simple. I would find myself moving from one location to the other just to get the free tokens. I would find myself going here fighting a monster. And it had this general feeling of sameness. It's going around. Now, all of that put together, I'm not a big fan of this game. It just felt, for all these pieces in this adventure, it felt very simple. Now, I'm not opposed to a quick adventure-style game. I'm perfectly content with that. But I felt with all these pieces and stuff, it felt very overwrought to do the same things over and over and over again. It didn't feel very adventurous at all. It felt like I was going over here to get something to go over here and get something. Now, you might argue and say Arkham Horror is the same way, but with Arkham Horror, there was this feeling of dread. The theme pervaded every part of that game. Here, I don't feel the theme at all. And I wish I did more. Now, I do think, and I'm actually going to give this game a seal of approval, even though I'm not a big fan of it, because I do think a lot of people are going to enjoy this, and I think it's the same people who like Talisman. If you like Talisman, this game feels like a very similar thing to that. In Talisman, you go around and you see what happens. And here you go around and see what happens. And as long as you read the text and things in this game, and you play with the different characters, I mean, there is lots of options, and I like that. But, I mean, honestly, I might draw a red card and, ooh, I found a clue. And you draw a red card, ooh, you lose a turn. Ha 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 ha. There's just a ton of luck. And that luck, combined with the simplicity, combined with the fact that all of the guys feel the same, just for me, doesn't do it. But I can look at the game and go, wow, there's a big group of people out there who will like this game. So I'll say this, if you like Talisman or you like simple style adventure games, you'll probably really enjoy this. Maybe if you like the video game, that will help you out somewhat in the regard. Doesn't do anything for me though, and I just found it a little bit boring. Dice Tower Judgment, not for me, but still, approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!